right, players. How are y'all this morning? Whew. I went for a run this morning, and I've been thinking a lot about Matthew 5, of course. Seems like everyone's getting up in arms about me for explaining the Sermon on the Mount, but I figured I would just read the whole thing today. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go to Matthew 5 real quick. People don't like this. They don't like this notion that you're responsible for things that you think just as much as for things that you do. And you can imagine why people don't want to be responsible for the things that they think, right? But it's pretty explicit, I think. All right, so we got Matthew 5, starting at the beginning. Matthew 5. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his disciples came unto him. I mean, he's going up to the mountain because he's getting mobbed by people. I get that. I'm going to be going up to the mountain pretty soon. And he opened his mouth and taught them. This is the Sermon on the Mount, right? So he's already gone up to the mount. These people have followed him up to the mount. You guys have followed me up to my mount, so you can hear this one. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Even there, you see, that is this is the justice here. The merciful receive mercy. That is justice. The unmerciful do not receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The pure in heart, i.e., the pure in heart and thought, imagination. This is all pure in the inside. Those pure on their insides are those who can see God. That is, if you cannot see God in this world, it is because you are impure. It's not because God's absent. It's because your heart is impure. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Amen. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Amen. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Boy, whew, I know that one. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Don't we know that? Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. That's where we are right now. I'm in the city on the hill, the hills of Massachusetts. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. This, you could say, we could translate this into the Marxist conception, right? I came not to abolish, but to sublate the law. I did not come to abolish the law. I came to sublate the law. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall not no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. If you're going to complain, if you're going to point out the hypocrisies of the media and the cathedral and the corrupt Democrats and all of this, you have to be exceed their righteousness. You don't get to be the same type of person. You don't get to wish you were Jeffrey Epstein and then lambaste Jeffrey Epstein, right? You have to be actually better. You have to be virtuous. You have heard, and this is where we get into the weeds, right? This is where we get into the part where people are having a problem with my interpretation of this. But I think it's perfectly defensible, and I don't understand the counterposition. But here it is. You have heard that it was said by them of old time, "Thou shalt not kill," and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. The action alone. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Now, here people highlight without a cause. And of course, God is angry too. God's angry with a cause. God has all the cause in the world to be angry. Jesus has anger. Jesus shows his anger as well. It's not a sin to be angry. It is a sin to be angry without cause. Like, for instance, when people are angry at me for telling them this, they're sinning. Like, why are you mad at me? What did I do wrong? What am I doing, really? Like, why are you so mad? Like, that's what's amazing to me is when people get so mad at me. I'm like, it's amazing. Why? Like, what have I done to you? This is of course, I could quote William Blake's Poison Tree as well, correct? Like if you're angry with your friend, I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with the foe, I told it not, my wrath did grow. You should express your actual resentments, your angers to people in a spirit of charity here, but you should express them forthrightly. Like you're not a good person for not sharing your anger if it's with cause. If you're angry with the cause, you are not doing anyone favors by not telling someone the cause for which you are angry. Whoever shall say to his brother Araka, which is a bit like dullard or idiot or blockhead, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever shall say, "Thou fool," shall be in danger of hellfire. What's the difference there? So one, you're saying, okay, listen, you're kind of a dunderhead. You kind of don't get it, all right? And then so now you're in danger of the council. Now it's like you got to actually back that shit up, right? But if you are completely dehumanizing the person and saying that they're effectively incapable of understanding, you fool, like they're this person who's just perfectly incapable of understanding, then you're in danger of hellfire. Because all of this can be understood by children, as Christ says. So it's not everyone can understand this. That's the precondition. It's not, there aren't people who are preternaturally, physically incapable of understanding this. That's another argument someone was telling me is that you have to have a certain level of cognition to be capable of sin. Like you have to, you like someone with a mental illness or, someone who's like mentally retarded cannot sin, or, you can only be conscious of sin for it to be a sin. You can't unconsciously sin. They say that this doesn't make any sense. Well, I asked them, was Eve conscious of her sin? Of course not. How could she have been? She didn't know what good and evil were. How can you sin if you have no conception of good and evil in this view? I say it's still sin. I mean, God says it's still a sin. She was unconscious of it. She didn't know what good and evil was. She disobeyed without knowing that disobeying was evil. But there's the rub. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Are you like what you're going to church? That makes you a Christian, and you harbor all these resentments towards your brothers that you haven't hashed out? Why are you going to church? You got more important shit to do, pal. Walk the walk, do the actual work. Agree with thine adversary quickly while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Well, I break this one all the time. Gotta admit, I openly disagree with my adversaries far too frequently. It's much better. You can get along much better in life if you don't. If you agree, if someone says like you're a bad, like someone says accuse you of something, you just say okay. All right, pal. Because it doesn't really matter. Like you're not going to change the world with your little act of resistance. God came down and he He did it all right. He did it all way better than you, and he ended up crucified before everyone. So what do you think's going to happen to you? I feel that. I mean, they definitely think about this is like the doxing and like getting swatted. Lest anytime the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily, I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. Again, the action. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath already committed adultery with her in his heart. So does that only mean it applies to adultery? This is, we can get Jesuistic and legalistic and lawyery here in our hermeneutics. So we can say, well, I mean, maybe it's just that sin. Maybe that's the only one that applies for. Maybe that's the only one that applies for. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. I actually have a very strong memory of this passage in my CCD class, my little Catholic Boy Scouts or whatever that you have to do as a cradle Catholic in these United States of America. I don't know how it is in Europe, but we had to interpret this, right? And nobody in the class had an interpretation of it. No one had anything to say about it. They thought it was weird. They didn't get it. But I explained it. And the teacher was like, yes, that's exactly what it means. What it means is not to actually pull out your eye and to actually cut off your hand. What it means more in the sense of these metaphorical things. Like, for instance, if you, this particular thing you do, this particular way of thinking you have, or any of these things, like this aspect of your personality, let's say, is what causes you, is what's bringing you to these occasions of sin, is what's making you miserable, then yeah, you should cut it off. If you have a gangrenous limb, you don't want to die. Like, it's good to eliminate these parts of yourself in order to like maintain like your body in a spiritual sense. Like, it's better to deface your body in the material sense and maintain the spiritual sense than the reverse. It hath been said, whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, committeth adultery. That's actually the law here. You are not, when you are to be married and never unmarried. Like, divorce, like, you're supposed to mean it. Like, if you make a commitment like that, it's not one of expedience, utility. It is like a sacrament. It is like a very important sacrament. And if you, like, you can't even allow the thought of divorce to enter into your mind, because if you entertain this thought, this is the whole point. The thought is what gives occasion to the action. Like, you want to not think in these ways anyway. But like, for instance, if you go to a therapist, someone in my mentions gave this example to describe his amazement at people not understanding what I'm saying. But if you go to a therapist and you're like, they say, have you ever tried to kill yourself? And you say, no. They go, have you ever thought about it? And you go, yes. And they say, do you think about this frequently? And if you like, well, no, it could be no. I have thought about this, but it's not something I think about very frequently. I'm doing all right. Or I think about it frequently. Now, do you think the therapist is going to thinks that's okay? Like, do you think that anyone who's concerned for your well-being thinks that you entertaining thoughts of suicide is good, or it's fine, or it's like different in one way than actually doing it? Like, how do you actually do it? By thinking about it all the time. That's how you get there. That's like the thing with like also people talking about these, like, things like, oh, well, I just have all these lecherous thoughts. I don't act on them. Well, it's like, not yet, but you're training yourself to that, for that to become an instinct. Like the more you repeat thoughts in your mind, like this kind of mantra type of thing, the more they're going to inform your actions. You're like literally carving the world for yourself with your thoughts. You are making the world around you. Like the world that you imagine around you is like it's like you're superimposing the world of your imagination onto the world and you act the way that you imagine the world to be. So if you're constantly having these thoughts, why wouldn't you at some point engage in the action that it ultimately will be the telos, like the culmination of that thought, that thing in the imagination entering into the world? Again, ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whichever is more than these cometh of evil. Well, do we get some yays or nays here? You can put up your yays or nays. Do we agree or do we disagree with that? I don't know. I feel like if you disagree with it, where's that coming from? Like where ultimately why do you disagree with that? Really think about it. It seems like an absurd notion. But there is a sense in which this yes or no. Do you agree or do you not? Well, that's like cutting through all of the rest. Yes or no? Like, yeah, I agree, I disagree. You could have a whole conversation like this. You state premises, I'll say if I agree or if I disagree. And someone can figure out if they're good enough, if they ask enough questions. If they're good enough at asking questions. You can do yes or no. That's like 20 questions. You know, you can narrow it down pretty swiftly if you cut it back to yay or nay. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil. Resist not evil. Resist not evil. But whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Turn to him the other also. This is a heavy one. This one is heavy. Resist not evil. What do you mean? Obviously, this is not real. This can't be what he actually meant because you're supposed to, resist evil. You're supposed to fight the evil in the world. If someone slaps you, you should kill him. Resist not evil. And this is even worse. And if any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak as well. If someone says that they got a beef with you, you should like he's saying you should allow these people to trot all over you. But why? Because that is what Jesus did. Like I are you strong enough to do that? I'm not. I have way too much pride. I'm a sinner, man. I'm not as good of a person. I I want to resist evil, I don't want to turn the other cheek. I don't want to allow these liars and schemers to win. But the point isn't that they like then you're still thinking about their their victory in time. You're not thinking really in terms of eternity then, are you? If you're thinking in terms of eternity, then what you are is an eternal representation. You become like in the tableau of the divine comedy of world historical being and becoming. You have become an icon of goodness, of of it's like difficult, to say the least. Oh man. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn thou not away. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. Oh, the friend-enemy distinction, I see. Thou shalt love thy friend and hate thy enemy. The friend-enemy distinction. But I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Fuck. Shit, I don't want to do that. I want revenge. But I can't deny that that's true. That ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. That's something, this is a where, you really tell a lie here. This is like, we're all Jobs, where we like believe that we could withstand the direct judgment of God, right? That like we should go represent ourselves as legal counsel before God himself, and that we would somehow win in this debate. This is actually what Hume says is what is happening in the book of Job, is that actually Job is right and God is morally deficient in this case. But that's not true. That's not true. That's to entirely misunderstand the point of the story. The point of the story is that God's morality is beyond our sense, our little earthly sense of the good. He's good in a way that you cannot even fathom. You do not have the patience of God. Like, you do not have the mercy of God. None of us do. We're all sinners. And we think of our sin as virtue, but that's not true. Like, we're just lying to ourselves at the end of the day. Like, God doesn't, like, we could accuse God. Why does God water the tares, the weeds, the parasites, the mosquitoes? He loves them too. Do you? Do you love your enemies? Do you love like things that are like, do you love evil too in that way? Like those things that are evil, in the sense that you would not perish them and accept in the last judgment. Like, you don't need to wipe them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're watering the world, and you can't allow like this focus on perfection in time to disallow the production of perfection in eternity. This is like, the argument of, you hear this very classically, welfare, right? Where it's like, well, we don't want to allow vice, et cetera, et cetera. We like, when giving anything to anyone or charity, you shouldn't give money to the homeless man. He's only going to use it on drugs. So what are you going to use it on? God would give him, God gives rain to everyone. It rains on everyone. For if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? Doesn't everyone already love who loves them? Isn't that kind of, what do you win? What's more than that? That's easy. That's simple. That's even the worst people in the world love the people who love them. Satan loves the people who love Satan. Like, who doesn't love them? He said, like, even the IRS loves the people who love the IRS. How are you any better than them? If you salute your brethren only, what do you have more than others? Do not even the publicans so? If you only like the people who you like, you only care for the people who care for you. So does everyone. That's how everything works. That's nothing. It's not how God is. God's way better than that. Jesus is a way better person than that. I don't know. People will deny this. They'll say this is all nonsense. This is all you can't possibly believe that. Okay? I and the people who I like are the best people in the world. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which in heaven is perfect. So God is the image of perfection. We're not the image. We're the fallen image of perfection, right? We're righting ourselves. We're getting back up. we're getting in there. We're getting ready. We're rising up, but we're not quite there yet. But that is what we aspire to be like, is to be like God. What other like, I don't know. People have issues with all of this, but I always ask them to give me a different moral system. I've looked, man. I've looked. I've read the Taoists. I've read the fucking Vedas. I've read the sagas. I've read all of the Greek epics and the whole mythos of these things. But the Bible is unique, world historically so. People can deny this, but it's only you can just go do experience it yourself. That's all I have to say. That's the thing. It's like not about like an argument about how I prove that statement. I already know it's true. I have no interest in proving it. I know that it's true because I experienced it. Like there's not an argument that can change what I already know to be true because I experienced it. No one's going to like gaslight me into like, oh well, actually they're everything's like the same. Not really. The Bible's fucking crazy. It's the craziest book. You are constantly tripping on these things and being perplexed and riddled the entire time. It's like one of the greatest trollish books of all time because you got to start it from the beginning too. You got to read it all the way through like a novel. That's how the people in these hills read it back in the day, and that's the best way to read it. Read it like a novel the first time you read it. If you're going to read it from the beginning to the end. When you get there, start at the beginning and it'll be completely different. You get to the end, you go back to the beginning, you read it, you'll be like, wow, this is a completely new book. And then you do it again. And then every time you do that, that's what happens. And you're constant, it's literally like the dialectical sparring chamber for like cosmology. Like this and few other texts, I say, but all of which are directly inspired by this and try and like literally adopting the same like formal technique, you could say, if the Bible is understood to be a coherent singular corpus like a novel. It's already like an experimental novel. You've got every genre of literature in it, every conceivable genre of literature, operating in the same developing cosmology with the same metaphors unfolding in various levels of dialectical irony with each other over centuries and millennia of time. That's the scope of this text. You see what I'm saying? Like, why is this like considered this bumpkin's bludgeon tool? Like, this is the most sophisticated literature, the most important literature, a book that has literally altered the face of the globe continually in a way that no other has. And people write it off and they don't read it. Hardly anyone reads this fucking thing anymore, man. Nobody reads it. Nobody reads the whole thing. They'll say, you press them a little bit, a little bit. You have to know more than they do in order to even accomplish this. I recommend doing it. It's especially if you like, I love, the arguments with Christians are the best because you're having the same book. You do go direct citations. You can do like, it can go on forever, do philology. You can say this is the whole fucking thing. And at the end of the day, the Bible itself tells you not to do this because it's a waste of time. Obsessions with genealogies and all of these things end up kind of getting in the way. They're a form of idolatry. Because as Jesus says, right? Like if you're angry with your brother and you haven't gone and dealt with that, then you're wasting your time by just, you think you can attain salvation on your own? Think you can just like, you're gonna this is like I'm not really into the ascetics for that reason. I like the criticisms of the ascetics by a lot of the radical Protestants, like he who does not work shall not eat, says the book of Acts. Well, I'm winding down here, so if anyone wants to talk about the good word, we can continue the sermon on the porch, or if anyone has some recommended readings. I just can't believe people are. Well, I actually can. It's perfect. See, the thing is that it's like I'm saying I can't believe, but it's actually perfectly normal to me. Just note that people get very, very upset with you without cause, when you just describe the content and meaning of this book. It's something to behold. It's something to behold in the first person, is what I would say. You can see people like radically alter their countenance, like at the drop of the name of Christ. It's insane. Like you should. Yeah, it's like a little cheat code in this world. You know, it's this little Easter egg, maybe. You know, I don't know. I've got to pitch it to gamers. What do I? How do I pitch the Bible to gamers, guys? Ugh. It's you're the main character, I guess, in that sense. In that Haman says this as well, that the Bible is really about you. Like it knows it's about you more than it knows more about you than you know about it. It's like a massive compendium of wisdom rendered from millennia, and you are a fucking idiot and a sinner like me. So that's the whole point of the book. Like, I don't know, people like, you know, they're like, that's so silly. I don't know, like I just like I've been in their worlds before. I know how they think. I know what their world looks like, and I know their anxieties and their confusions. I know their blindnesses. I've been there. I've been them. I know exactly what they're like. So I don't know. People don't have faith in you though. It's odd. Like, you know, they are endlessly skeptical. We're trained in a radical skepticism, a skeptical empiricism, which denies the category of revelation itself. You know, a society of doubting Thomases, and I've been a doubting Thomas. I know what that's like. I like John now. John's my favorite apostle these days. John's the real one. John doesn't run. John wants to throw the thunder. John wants to throw the lightning down. John's like, when, like, let's get it, let's do it. That's who I like. John. I want Jesus to be like, hold on, brother, tarry a while. That's one of my favorite lines in all of the New Testament is when Jesus rebukes Peter for Peter, the reply guy of Jesus. He's rebuking Peter for asking what, like, why is it like with John not like doing enough work effectively. But he's like, no, John's gonna tarry a while. And what's that to you, Peter? The funny thing that a lot of people don't realize about Peter's name is that it's like kind of he's making fun of him at the same time. Like he's calling him like like dumb as a rock, like he's a rock, you know. So like and when it's very funny, in the Catholics like have so much pride in Peter, like Peter the one who like fucking like is like Jesus is so like, brother, like you say all of this right now, but I know that you're going to reject being my friend three times before the authorities, just on this day. Before the cock crows. I know you're going to do that. I can tell you this right now, and you're still going to do it because that's the kind of guy you are. You are a Brit, like, you know, he's the one, like, he cuts a Roman soldier's ear off before this, right? So he's all like, oh, yeah, like in this time when it's completely unnecessary to be so boisterous, is making you look bad because he's going too far, and you are like, Peter, come on, like, you don't have to cut off a fucking centurion's ear like right now. I was dealing with this. You're fucking it up. And then later, for that same guy who's like ostensibly gonna, you know, kill on your behalf, will deny you in front of those very same authorities after he had just previously cut one of their ears off. Where's he then? He's not fighting to the death then, is he? Is he, Peter? Fucking Peter. You gotta love him though. All the apostles are sinners. These days, I don't know. I don't know. Whew. I got a little patience for Peters these days. I got a lot of Peters in my menchies. Who's your favorite apostle? Someone tell me. Someone come on and tell me their favorite apostle and why. I think Paul is a good answer. I used to not like Paul. I still think Paul's an asshole, but I also understand that he's a very sad man. He he, you know, he persecuted Christians and then he becomes a like his wife dies. He's left all alone. And he starts to when in his loneliness, this is really the origin of Paul. So that's why he's like, he's like very much against he's more against uh sexual relations than probably is necessary. But he's he's like a widower. So he's like saying like, he's like partially imposing that on himself because he doesn't want to betray like that's like the one like, he loved his wife. He didn't want to remarry. That's what the Romans would have you do, they don't give a shit. They don't actually like get married, they like have arrangements for the corporation, for the name, for the family line, for the trust, for the property management. It's not real. It's just, that's why like, people made a mockery of marriage and now people these days are like marriage is bad, like, it's not worth doing. But it's like if you're talking about legally all of these things, I'm talking about like spiritually. Like to actually like make a commitment to one person for your entire life and to never go against that is, I think, like it's been the greatest blessing in my life. If I believe, I don't know, I never didn't believe in marriage. I always believed in it, like very strongly, my entire life since I was a child. Like I didn't like, I was kind of funny in that way because I didn't like being forced to like hang out with girls who I didn't want to marry when I was like a kid. I was like, I don't want to marry her. Like, why do I have to talk? I wanted to find my wife. I was like, yeah, like and, like, and your wife would also be like your best friend, and that's how it goes. That's what I thought when I was like 7. It's kind of funny, but that's how it ended up going for me. Yeah, someone pop in a request. I don't like talking to myself. Hello.